Hello, my friends, and welcome to Immersive History. Picture a city of 1 million people living without a single electric light. Imagine streets that pulse with human energy from dawn to dusk, then transform into intimate archipelagos of warm lamplight once darkness falls. Think of a place where the most sophisticated urban culture on Earth flourished using nothing more than human hands, natural materials, and the skill and creativity born of centuries in isolation. This was Edo in its golden age, the city that would one day become Tokyo, but which in the 18th century was a metropolis much larger than London and Paris. Yet he remained virtually unknown to the Western world. For over 2 centuries, this extraordinary city developed in almost complete isolation, creating urban solutions and cultural achievements that wouldn't be matched anywhere else until the Industrial Revolution transformed civilization itself. What made Edo truly remarkable wasn't just its size, but how it worked. 1 million people coordinated their lives without telecommunications, organized commerce without mechanized transport, and created beauty without industrial production. They built a functioning metropolis using technologies that hadn't changed fundamentally for centuries, yet achieved levels of sophistication that most modern cities struggle to match. Our exploration will take us deep into this vanished world through the experiences of someone who lived it. We'll discover how darkness and light shaped daily rhythms, how extreme specialization created both masterpieces and dependencies, and how isolation fostered innovations that emerged nowhere else on Earth. If you find this journey into the past compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support enables these deep dives into history's most fascinating civilizations. Let's step through the gates of old Edo and see what 1 million people could achieve using nothing but their own skill, cleverness, and imagination. Meet Kenji, though in truth you are Kenji. You've just completed a 2-week journey along the Tokaido Highway, one of the great roads connecting Japan's provinces to its political heart. Your feet are blistered from walking in straw sandals, your back aches from carrying everything you own, and your eyes struggle to process what lies before you. The city spreads beyond the horizon like a wooden ocean. Smoke from countless cooking fires creates a perpetual haze that softens the edges of distant buildings. The sound hits you before the smell, a low roar of human activity unlike anything in nature. Then comes the aroma: rice, fish, incense, sweat, and the unmistakable scent of countless people living in close quarters. A smell that is at once overwhelming and oddly familiar. Your village in the northern mountains housed fewer than 200 souls. The largest town you'd ever seen had perhaps 2,000 residents. Nothing in your experience prepared you for this concentration of humanity that stretches beyond the limits of vision. But overwhelming scale quickly resolves into intimate details as you enter the city proper. Streets narrow to corridors barely wide enough for 2 people. Buildings rise no more than 3 stories, their wooden frames and plaster walls creating canyons of human habitation. Shop fronts open directly onto walkways, merchants calling their wares in the rapid-fire Edo dialect that sounds like music compared to your mountain accent. The rumours that reached your village spoke of Edo as a place of impossible wonders and terrible dangers. Stories told of streets lit by thousands of lanterns, of entertainments that lasted until dawn, of craftsmen who earned more in a month than farmers made in a year. But they also warned of crowds that could crush you, of expenses that could bankrupt the unwary, and of a pace of life that destroyed those who couldn't keep up. Standing now in a narrow street surrounded by more strangers than you'd seen in your entire previous life, you understand that both versions were true. What awaits you in this city? Fortune or misfortune? Wonder or hardship? Your first challenge is finding shelter, which introduces you to the Nagaya, long, narrow buildings divided into tiny 12 apartments that house most of Edo's working population. The room you eventually secure measures roughly 10 feet by 12, with space for sleeping, eating, and whatever trade you can establish. Privacy doesn't exist here. Conversations in one apartment echo through thin walls into all the others. Children play together in the narrow courtyard, adults share cooking fires and gossip, and everyone participates in each other's dramas simply by proximity. The enforced intimacy creates social bonds unknown in rural areas, where families lived separated by rice fields and forest paths. But the most striking difference from country life reveals itself when the sun sets. In your mountain village, darkness meant rest. There was little to be done once natural light faded. Here in Edo, sunset triggers a transformation that makes the city almost unrecognizable. Thousands of paper lanterns bloom like flowers along the streets. Oil lamps flicker to life in workshop windows. Candles cast warm light through the translucent screens that serve as walls in many buildings. The city doesn't sleep when darkness falls. It changes character, becoming more intimate, more mysterious, and in many ways more beautiful. This is when you begin to understand Edo's true genius, the creation of artificial environments that extend productive activity deep into the night. Craftsmen continue detailed work by carefully positioned oil flames. Merchants conduct business in lamplit tea houses. Entertainment districts blaze with illumination that turns night into a different kind of day. The technology behind this nocturnal transformation is more sophisticated than it first appears. The paper lanterns that line the streets are not random decorations, but carefully designed lighting systems. The paper is treated with oils that make it translucent while providing protection from rain and wind. The frames are constructed to allow air circulation that prevents dangerous heat buildup, while directing light downward to illuminate walkways. Oil lamps used in workshops represent significant investments in both equipment and fuel. The lamps themselves are precision instruments with carefully shaped reservoirs that ensure steady fuel flow and wicks that burn at optimal rates. The oil, pressed from rapeseed cultivated specifically for illumination, costs enough that every drop must be conserved. Master craftsmen develop techniques for maximizing light output while minimizing fuel consumption, using polished metal reflectors to concentrate and direct illumination where it's needed most. Thanks to these social implications of artificial lighting, you had a chance to be introduced to the nocturnal world of entertainment. Takeshi, a carpenter who lives in your Nagaya, invites you to explore one of the city's famous places where arts, commerce, and pleasure combine in ways that would be impossible without dense population and sophisticated organization. The approach builds anticipation through careful lighting design. Stone lanterns line the main avenue at regular intervals, creating a processional route that announces you're entering somewhere special. As you pass through the quarter's main gate, the number of lights multiplies dramatically. Every establishment competes for attention through elaborate displays of lanterns, creating districts that blaze with more artificial illumination than most people had ever imagined possible. But quantity is just the beginning. The quality of light in these areas demonstrates sophisticated understanding of atmosphere and mood. Different establishments use different lighting techniques. Some favour many small flames that create intimate pools of warmth. Others use fewer but brighter lamps that project confidence and prosperity. The interplay of light and shadow, impossible to replicate with electric illumination, adds layers of mystery and romance that enhance every interaction. The famous Yoshiwara district represents the pinnacle of this lighting artistry. The main street leading to the licensed quarter is lined with stone lanterns that create pools of steady illumination, building anticipation as visitors approach the great gate that marks the entrance to the pleasure quarter. The streets within Yoshiwara blaze with more concentrated artificial light than exists anywhere else in the world at this time. Tea houses display arrangements of hundreds of small lanterns, creating walls of warm, golden light that can be seen from great distances. The most prestigious establishments invest enormous sums in lighting displays that include coloured paper, special oils that burn with different hues, and elaborate mechanical devices that create moving patterns of light and shadow. But Yoshiwara is far more than simple visual spectacle. It represents the most sophisticated entertainment complex ever created without modern technology, a place where the arts of music, dance, poetry, and conversation have been refined to extraordinary levels. The courtesans who work in the highest-ranking houses are accomplished artists whose cultural education rivals that of aristocrats. They compose poetry, play multiple musical instruments, and engage in philosophical discussions that demonstrate deep knowledge of classical literature and contemporary affairs. The entertainment itself reveals cultural sophistication that matches the lighting technology. This isn't crude amusement for the masses, but refined art that requires educated audiences to fully appreciate. The theatres present complex dramas that comment on contemporary social issues through historical allegories. Your first visit to one of Yoshiwara's more modest establishments provides education in the complex social dynamics of urban entertainment. Along with Takeshi, you step into a modest tea house tucked between two shops, the scent of steamed rice cakes and brewed tea filling the air. At one corner, a middle-ranking samurai quietly sips his tea, his posture upright but unobtrusive, while nearby a skilled craftsman explains the intricate process of lacquerwork to a wealthy merchant. The merchant listens attentively, nodding and asking questions about the dyes and materials, while the artisan describes the hours and care required for each piece. Around them, townspeople move softly, pausing respectfully to hear the conversation, but keeping their distance from the samurai. Despite the differences in rank, the exchange feels natural. The samurai observes politely, the merchant shares knowledge without arrogance, and the craftsman speaks with pride tempered by humility. The warm, flickering illumination softens social distinctions and encourages informality that would be inappropriate in daylight business environments. Everyone respects the unspoken social codes, understanding their place without tension. In this small tea house, you see the essence of Edo, a city where hierarchy shapes interaction, yet skill, knowledge, and mutual respect allow people of different classes to coexist, creating a thriving urban culture built on discipline, expertise, and careful social balance. The music that provides the soundtrack to these evening gatherings comes from shamisen players, whose three-stringed instruments produce the distinctive, twanging melodies that define Edo's urban culture. The shamisen itself represents technological and artistic adaptation to city life. Its compact size makes it suitable for indoor performance, its distinctive sound cuts through urban noise, and its musical range allows for complex emotional expression that speaks to the psychological needs of people living in close proximity to thousands of strangers. The musicians, predominantly women, occupy a unique position in Edo's social hierarchy. Although officially ranked below merchants in the formal class system, skilled entertainers can earn substantial incomes and enjoy considerable social freedom. The best shamisen players are sought after by wealthy patrons who compete for their services, and their performances can influence fashion trends and cultural developments throughout the city. Finding employment proves challenging in a city where every trade has become incredibly specialized. In your home village, a craftsman might make everything from farming tools to furniture. Here, you discover woodworkers who create only a specific type of comb used in women's elaborate hairstyles, metalworkers whose entire livelihood comes from making fittings for samurai sword mountings, and merchants who deal exclusively in one variety of fish. This extreme specialization creates opportunities for anyone with skills and determination, but it also requires commercial sophistication unknown in rural areas. Every transaction involves negotiation. Every relationship carries economic implications, and survival depends on understanding complex networks of interdependence that bind the urban community together. The process of finding work provides education in Edo's economic structure and social organization. Unlike rural areas where work follows the rhythms of the seasons, the city hums with activity year-round, offering a multitude of paths for men to carve out a place for themselves. Some become samurai, their days filled with the disciplined routines of training, attendance at the shogun's court, or overseeing the security of their lord's domain, carrying both the prestige and burdens of their status. Others find their fortunes as merchants, weaving through the crowded streets with carts of silk, rice, or exotic goods, negotiating deals that could make or break their families' livelihoods. Some choose the stage or the tea house, becoming actors, musicians, or storytellers, their performances turning everyday evenings into moments of wonder for eager audiences. And still others serve as teachers, clerks, or officials, poring over ledgers or scrolls, quietly sustaining the systems that keep Edo orderly and thriving. Each role has its own rhythms, hierarchies, and expectations, yet all are connected in the intricate web of the city, showing how Edo channels ambition, skill, and social discipline into a dazzling urban tapestry. Eventually, you secure employment with Master Yamada, who creates the decorative hair ornaments worn by women throughout Edo society. His workshop occupies the ground floor of a building. Morning hours, when light is soft and even, are reserved for the most delicate carving. As the sun climbs and light becomes harsher, craftsmen shift to rougher work that doesn't require the same precision. The stronger midday light, while less suitable for delicate carving, provides excellent illumination for sanding, assembly, and other tasks that benefit from bright, direct lighting. The workshop's daily rhythm adjusts to these changing light conditions, with different types of work scheduled for different times of day. Evening hours are devoted to maintenance and preparation for the following day's work, but the workshop doesn't close when natural light fades. Master Yamada has invested in an elaborate artificial lighting system that allows certain activities to continue after dark. The system represents both significant financial investment and accumulated technical knowledge passed down through generations of urban craftsmen. Polished metal reflectors concentrate oil lamp illumination onto specific work areas, creating pools of bright light that allow detailed work to continue well into the evening hours. The reflectors are precisely shaped and positioned to maximize light output while minimizing the shadows that can interfere with precision work. The system requires constant adjustment as lamps burn down and light levels change throughout the evening. The limitations of artificial lighting paradoxically improve certain aspects of craftsmanship by forcing levels of attention and care that electric illumination sometimes allows workers to avoid. When light is precious and limited, craftsmen develop enhanced sensory abilities and work habits that produce higher quality results than might be achieved under ideal lighting conditions. After work, you join the flow of people moving through entertainment districts where the night economy reaches full intensity. Street vendors appear with portable kitchens lit by small charcoal fires, selling hot food to workers seeking dinner and relaxation. These yatai, small mobile food stalls that can be set up and taken down quickly, represent one of Edo's most distinctive innovations, bringing fresh hot meals to every corner of the city. The Yatai system demonstrates how Edo adapted to the challenges of feeding 1 million people without modern transportation or preservation technology. Each vendor specializes in foods that can be prepared quickly and eaten while standing. Grilled fish, noodles in hot broth, rice balls wrapped in seaweed, tempura vegetables fried in front of customers. The vendors carry their own lighting systems, usually paper lanterns, that create intimate islands of warmth and activity on dark streets. The food itself reflects Edo's unique position in Japanese culture. Traditional ingredients prepared in ways that reflect urban tastes and the demands of city life. The famous Edo-style sushi, for example, developed as fast food for busy urban workers, rice and fish that could be eaten quickly with one hand while continuing other activities. The soba noodles that became synonymous with Edo culture were originally working-class food that provided quick, inexpensive nutrition for labourers and craftsmen. But the Yatai also serve social functions beyond simple nutrition. They become gathering places where people from different neighbourhoods and social backgrounds can interact informally. News and gossip spread through the Yatai networks, creating informal communication systems that supplement official information sources. Business relationships often develop over shared meals at these mobile restaurants, with the informal atmosphere encouraging types of interaction that would be impossible in more formal settings. The vendors themselves represent a unique class of urban entrepreneurs who bridge the gap between producers and consumers. Many are former farmers who have adapted agricultural knowledge to urban markets, while others are craftsmen who have developed specialized skills in food preparation and customer service. The most successful Yatai operators develop loyal followings and can earn substantial incomes, demonstrating the opportunities for advancement that urban life provides for people with determination and skills. The social geography of Edo reveals itself gradually as you become familiar with different neighborhoods and their distinct characters. Districts near the shogun's castle are dominated by massive daimyo estates, residences of powerful feudal lords who served under the shogun, whose high walls and elaborate gates create zones of aristocratic formality that ordinary citizens experience mainly as observers. These aristocratic districts occupy enormous areas of the city centre, with each major daimyo maintaining a residence that covers several city blocks. The estates are essentially self-contained communities with their own workshops, gardens, temples, and residential areas for the hundreds of retainers and servants required to maintain aristocratic lifestyles. The contrast between these spaces and the crowded neighbourhoods where ordinary people live demonstrates the extreme social inequalities that characterize Edo society. Commercial areas pulse with energy from dawn to dusk as the great markets receive goods from throughout Japan and distribute them to thousands of smaller retailers. The scale of daily commerce staggers the imagination. Enough rice to feed 1 million people, fresh fish that must reach neighborhood markets while still edible, charcoal and other fuel that individual households require for cooking and heating. The Nihonbashi fish market represents one of Edo's most remarkable logistical achievements. Every day before dawn, boats arrive from Edo Bay carrying fresh fish that must be sorted, priced, and distributed throughout the city before the morning heat makes the products unsaleable. The market operates with clockwork precision, using systems of signals and protocols developed over generations to coordinate the activities of thousands of fishermen, wholesalers, and retailers. The rice markets demonstrate even more complex organization, as they must coordinate supplies from agricultural regions throughout Japan to ensure that the city's population has adequate food supplies throughout the year. The merchants who organize this system possess detailed knowledge of agricultural conditions, transportation routes, and storage techniques that allows them to manage food security for a population larger than most entire countries of the time. This commercial system operates entirely through human and animal power. Everything moves via porters carrying loads on their backs, horses pulling carts over rough roads, and boats navigating rivers and canals that serve as highways for bulk goods. The physical demands are enormous, but The system functions with remarkable efficiency. The human carriers who transport goods throughout the city represent one of Edo's most essential but least recognized professions. These workers, known as cargo kaki and nimbu, carry everything from individual packages to entire households' belongings through the narrow streets that are inaccessible to wheeled vehicles. The work requires extraordinary physical strength and endurance, but it also demands detailed knowledge of the city's geography and the social protocols that govern interactions with different types of customers. Another often overlooked profession in Edo is the gomi shonin, or waste merchants. These workers move through the streets carrying baskets of kitchen scraps, paper, cloth, and leftover oils. They don't just collect trash, they transform it into valuable resources. Organic waste is sent to fertilize the fields surrounding the city. Paper and fabric scraps are repurposed into new products, and fats and oils fuel the city's lamps. The city separates household waste into organics and inorganics, creating an almost closed-loop system. Nothing useful goes to waste. Food scraps return to the fields, recyclables are turned into new goods, and the streets remain remarkably clean despite a population of 1 million. The understanding that waste is a resource is part of the culture, not enforced by law, and the Gomi Shonin keep this system running smoothly, demonstrating an efficiency that many modern megacities still struggle to achieve. The boat transport system that connects Edo to the rest of Japan through rivers and coastal routes represents sophisticated coordination between urban and rural economies. The boats themselves are specially designed for different types of cargo and different waterway conditions, with experienced captains who understand seasonal variations in water levels, weather patterns, and market demands. The scheduling of boat arrivals and departures requires complex calculations that take into account tidal conditions, cargo availability, and urban market demands. The artisan neighbourhoods where you live and work occupy middle ground between formal aristocratic areas and bustling commercial districts. These are the places where Edo's famous craftsmanship emerges, lacquerware requiring months to complete, silk textiles woven in patterns of incredible complexity, metalwork that combines functionality with artistic beauty. Each neighbourhood specialises in particular trades, creating districts where the air rings with distinctive sounds. The hammering of metalworkers, the rhythmic clacking of looms, or the scraping of wood-carving tools. The concentration of related crafts in specific areas facilitates the exchange of techniques and materials while creating communities bound together by shared professional interests. The sword-making district demonstrates the highest levels of craftsmanship and the most complex coordination between different specialists. A single sword requires the collaboration of dozens of different craftsmen. Smelters who refine the metal, smiths who forge the blade, polishers who bring the steel to mirror finish, woodworkers who create scabbards and handles, metalworkers who make fittings, and lacquer specialists who provide protective and decorative finishes. The process of creating a single high-quality sword can take months or even years, with each stage requiring perfect execution and precise timing. The specialists involved in sword production represent the pinnacle of their respective crafts, with knowledge and skills passed down through generations of master craftsmen. The coordination required to bring together all the necessary components demonstrates the sophisticated organizational capabilities of Edo's artisan communities. But the most fascinating areas are those devoted to pleasure and entertainment. Beyond the famous licensed quarters, the city contains dozens of smaller entertainment districts, each with its own character and clientele. Some focus on theatre, others on music or gambling. All use lighting and spatial design to create atmospheres that transport visitors into worlds different from everyday urban life. These entertainment areas demonstrate how pre-electric architecture worked with natural and artificial light to create specific psychological effects. A Kabuki theatre uses hundreds of candles and oil lamps to create a magical realm where ordinary people become heroes and gods. The interplay of flame and shadow adds dimensions to performances that electric lighting cannot replicate. Your first visit to a Kabuki performance provides revelation about the possibilities of entertainment without modern technology. Nearly 1,000 spectators pack the building, from wealthy merchants in private boxes to craftsmen like yourself, sitting on mats in the general admission area. The noise level would shock modern theatre goers. Audiences participate actively, calling out to favourite actors and maintaining running commentary on the action. The theatre building itself represents architectural innovation adapted to the specific requirements of dramatic performance. The structure is designed to accommodate large audiences while providing adequate lighting for both performers and spectators. The stage area can be reconfigured for different types of performances, with elaborate machinery that allows for special effects and scene changes that seem magical to audiences unfamiliar with the techniques involved. The performance creates complete alternate realities using only the simplest materials. Painted backdrops and wooden platforms become anything from palace halls to mountain wildernesses through careful lighting and the actors' stylized movements. Sound effects generated by hidden musicians create everything from thunderstorms to bird songs. Costumes worth more than most people's annual income transform performers into living works of art. The costumes themselves represent some of the finest textile work in the world, incorporating techniques that have been refined over centuries to create fabrics of extraordinary beauty and complexity. The silk used in the most elaborate costumes comes from specific regions of Japan known for producing fibers of particular quality. The dyeing techniques create colours that maintain their brilliance under artificial lighting while conveying specific symbolic meanings that educated audiences understand immediately. The makeup worn by Kabuki actors represents another form of specialized artistry that transforms human faces into stylized masks capable of conveying emotion to audiences sitting hundreds of feet away. The application of makeup can take hours and requires detailed knowledge of color theory, facial anatomy, and the optical effects of different pigments under various lighting conditions. Each character type has its own makeup conventions, and variations in application can convey subtle information about personality, social status, and emotional state. But perhaps most impressive is how the lighting operators, working behind screens and in overhead galleries, manipulate flame and shadow to enhance the dramatic effect. Different scenes require different atmospheres. Love scenes bathed in soft romantic light, battle scenes lit by harsh flickering flames that create dramatic shadows, supernatural scenes where special effects with mirrors and coloured filters create otherworldly atmospheres. The lighting techniques used in Kabuki theatres represent centuries of technical development and artistic refinement. The operators must understand not only the practical aspects of working with flame and oil, but also the psychological effects of different types of lighting on audiences and performers. The timing of lighting changes must be precisely coordinated with the action on stage, requiring split-second timing and flawless execution. The audience's sophisticated response reveals how central this form of entertainment is to Edo's cultural identity. People discuss performances for weeks afterward, comparing different actors' interpretations of famous roles and debating the merits of new plays. The actors themselves are celebrities whose personal lives generate as much interest as their professional work. The celebrity culture surrounding Kabuki actors demonstrates how Edo has developed mass media and popular culture centuries before the technologies that modern societies associate with these phenomena. The actors' portraits are reproduced in woodblock prints that are sold throughout the city, creating the first mass-produced celebrity images. Their personal lives are chronicled in popular literature, and their fashion choices influence trends throughout urban society. But Kabuki represents only one aspect of Edo's entertainment culture. The city also supports a thriving industry of popular literature, distributed through lending libraries that make books available to anyone who can afford a small rental fee. These books, printed using woodblock techniques that produce remarkably clear text and illustrations, cover everything from romantic adventures to comic stories about urban life. The woodblock printing industry itself represents one of Edo's most remarkable technological achievements. Working entirely with hand tools and using techniques that have been refined over generations, the city's printers produce books, maps, and artworks that rival anything produced by European printing presses of the same period. The famous ukiyo prints, literally pictures of the floating world, depicting scenes of urban life, entertainment, and landscapes, are created using methods that require extraordinary precision and artistic sensitivity. The process of creating a ukiyo-e print reveals the level of craftsmanship that Edo's isolation has fostered. The artist first creates a detailed drawing, which is then transferred to a wooden block by a specialized craftsman who carves away everything except the lines of the image. This block is used to print the outline of the picture in black ink. Then separate blocks are carved for each color in the design, a process that can require dozens of different blocks for a single image. The carving of the blocks requires skills that take decades to master. The craftsman must understand not only the techniques of woodworking, but also the properties of different types of wood, the effects of different carving tools, and the ways that carved lines will appear when printed. The registration of multiple color blocks requires precision that equals the work of modern mechanical systems, but it is achieved entirely through hand-eye coordination and experienced judgment. The actual printing is done by another specialist who must align each color block perfectly with the others to create the final image. This process requires not only technical skill, but also aesthetic judgment, as the printer makes decisions about pressure, ink density, and timing that affect the final appearance of the print. The best printers become collaborators with the original artists, contributing their own expertise to create results that exceed what either could achieve working alone. The entire process, from initial design to finished print, can take months for a complex image, but the result is artwork that captures not just the appearance of Edo life, but something of its essence. The prints show not just what people looked like, but how they moved, how they dressed, and how they related to each other in the unique urban environment of the great city. Your first visit to a sumo arena reveals a spectacle unlike anything you have experienced before. The clay ring, simple yet sacred, becomes the stage for a performance of raw power and disciplined technique. Hundreds of spectators press close, some sitting on cushions, others standing along the edges, all eager to witness the drama unfold. The air buzzes with anticipation as the wrestlers enter, their imposing figures adorned only with the thick mawashi, yet commanding respect and awe from the crowd. The ritual surrounding each match is as captivating as the contest itself. Before a bout begins, the wrestlers perform precise movements, stomping to drive away evil spirits, clapping hands to call attention, and scattering salt to purify the ring. Every gesture has significance, a language of tradition that conveys honor, focus, and readiness. You notice the subtle tension in each stance, the coiled strength in every muscle, and the way the wrestlers anticipate each other's movements, as if engaged in a silent conversation of balance and force. Sound, timing, and environment heighten the drama. The hollow thuds of feet striking the clay, the rhythmic beat of drums, and the spectators' shouts combine into a symphony of energy that draws you into the contest. The dohyo itself, carefully prepared and maintained, is more than a fighting space. It is a crafted arena that reflects centuries of ceremonial and practical knowledge. Each match is a demonstration of skill, strategy, and endurance, with every push, throw, and hold executed with both technical mastery and dramatic flair. By the end of the day, the experience leaves a lasting impression. Sumo in Edo is not merely a sport, it is a cultural performance that blends physical excellence, ritual significance, and communal engagement. Like Kabuki and ukiyo-e, Sumo exemplifies the city's ability to transform human skill and creativity into forms of entertainment that are immersive, sophisticated, and deeply tied to the identity of Edo itself. Your own life becomes increasingly integrated into this complex urban culture as months pass. The skills you learn in Master Yamada's workshop improve steadily, and you begin to understand the subtle aesthetic principles that guide Japanese craftsmanship. The work is demanding, but rewarding, offering the satisfaction that comes from creating objects of genuine beauty and utility. The hair ornaments you help create serve customers from every level of Edo society, from merchant wives displaying their family's prosperity to courtesans using them as tools in elaborate theatres of seduction. Each customer brings different requirements and aesthetic preferences, challenging you to understand and work within multiple cultural traditions simultaneously. The technical skills required for this work extend far beyond simple wood carving. You learn to select materials based on subtle differences in grain, colour, and durability that affect both the appearance and longevity of finished products. You master techniques for working with different types of metal, understanding how various alloys respond to different forming and finishing processes. You develop sensitivity to the properties of different lacquers and pigments, learning to predict how they will age and change over time. But more importantly, you begin to understand how Edo functions as a social system. Your own position as an artisan places you in the third rank of the official social hierarchy, below samurai and farmers, but above merchants. In practice, however, the distinctions are more complex. The wealthy merchants who buy the hair ornaments you help create often live more luxuriously than low-ranking samurai. The farmers who supply the city with rice live much harder lives than successful urban craftsmen, and everyone, regardless of official status, must navigate the complex social protocols that govern urban interaction. These protocols extend to every aspect of daily life, from the proper way to greet neighbours to the elaborate rituals surrounding business transactions. The density of urban living has required the development of social conventions that allow people to live closely together without constant conflict. The result is a society that values courtesy, indirection, and aesthetic refinement to degrees that might seem excessive to outsiders, but are essential for urban survival. The changing seasons bring different rhythms to city life, but unlike in the countryside, these changes are mediated through human culture, rather than experienced directly through agricultural work. Spring in Edo is celebrated not just for the return of warmth, but for the cherry blossoms that transform the city's temples and parks into venues for elaborate hanami, flower viewing gatherings where friends, families, and colleagues picnic under the blooming trees to enjoy their beauty and the fleeting nature of the blossoms. These hanami celebrations reveal another aspect of Edo's unique character: the way natural beauty is incorporated into urban culture through carefully planned public spaces and seasonal rituals. The cherry trees planted throughout the city are not random landscaping, but carefully planned elements of urban design that provide opportunities for communal celebration and aesthetic appreciation. The flower viewing parties themselves demonstrate the sophisticated social organization that characterizes Edo life. Groups of friends, families, and business associates organize elaborate picnics that can last for entire days, with carefully planned menus, entertainment, and activities that celebrate both natural beauty and social bonds. The parties serve multiple functions. They provide opportunities for relaxation and aesthetic enjoyment, but they also serve as venues for business networking, social matchmaking, and community building. Summer brings its own challenges and pleasures. The heat, intensified by the concentration of people and buildings, makes daytime work almost unbearable. But the long summer evenings become occasions for festivals and outdoor entertainment that would be impossible in winter. The Sumida River becomes a highway for pleasure boats, where wealthy merchants and their guests enjoy elaborate dinner parties while viewing fireworks displays that turn the night sky into a canvas of coloured light. These fireworks represent another example of Edo's technological sophistication. Created using techniques that combine Chinese innovations with Japanese refinements, the displays achieve effects that rival modern pyrotechnics. The craftsmen who create the fireworks are highly skilled specialists whose work requires not only technical knowledge but artistic sensibility. Each display is choreographed to create emotional effects that complement the music and entertainment that accompany the shows. Also, the creation of fireworks requires knowledge of chemistry, physics, and artistry that few craftsmen possess. The basic explosive powder must be mixed in precise proportions to create different effects, colours, and timing sequences. The construction of the shells that create aerial displays requires engineering skills that ensure proper timing and dispersion of the explosive charges. Most challenging of all is the artistic vision that choreographs entire displays to create emotional and aesthetic experiences that justify the enormous expense involved. The summer festivals that punctuate the hot months provide relief from both physical discomfort and social tensions that build up in the crowded city. The Tanabata Festival, celebrating the legendary meeting of star-crossed lovers, transforms neighborhoods into galleries of poetry and decoration as residents compete to create the most elaborate displays. Children and adults write wishes on strips of colored paper that are hung from bamboo branches, creating temporary forests of human hopes and dreams. But perhaps the most spectacular summer entertainment occurs during the great fireworks festivals along the Sumida River. These events draw hundreds of thousands of spectators who line the riverbanks and crowd onto boats to view displays that can be seen from miles away. The fireworks themselves represent months of preparation by craftsmen who guard their techniques as carefully as any trade secrets. Autumn brings the city's most elaborate festivals, when entire neighborhoods organize celebrations that can last for days. These matsuri, traditional Japanese festivals that combine Shinto or Buddhist rituals with communal entertainment, create events that involve every resident regardless of age or social status. The preparation requires weeks of coordinated effort, as neighborhoods build elaborate floats, organize processions, and prepare special foods that are shared with anyone who participates. The Kanda Matsuri, one of Edo's 3 great festivals, demonstrates the organizational capabilities of the city's residents and the sophisticated social structures that allow 1 million people to coordinate complex activities without modern communication systems. The festival requires months of preparation, involving thousands of participants, elaborate processions that wind through dozens of neighborhoods, and careful scheduling that ensures different events don't conflict with each other. The portable shrines that are the centerpieces of these festivals represent some of the finest craftsmanship in the city. Each shrine requires the work of dozens of specialists, woodcarvers who create the elaborate decorative elements, metal workers who forge the fittings and ornaments, lacquer specialists who provide weather-resistant finishes, and textile workers who create the rich fabrics used for decoration and ceremony. The processions themselves reveal the complex social hierarchies that govern neighborhood life. Different groups within each community have specific roles and responsibilities. Wealthy merchants provide financial support, skilled craftsmen contribute labor and expertise, and ordinary residents participate as carriers and supporters. The festivals temporarily suspend normal social distinctions while simultaneously reinforcing community bonds and shared identity. But winter reveals most clearly how Edo's million residents survive without the heating technology that modern cities take for granted. The preparation begins in autumn, when every household must accumulate stores of charcoal that will provide heating and cooking fuel through the cold months. The charcoal trade becomes one of the city's most important industries, requiring a complex distribution system that brings fuel from the surrounding forests to every neighbourhood. The logistics of heating 1 million people using only wood and charcoal represent one of pre-modern urban civilization's greatest achievements. The forests surrounding Edo are managed specifically to provide sustainable fuel supplies, with careful planning that ensures adequate production without environmental destruction. The transportation system that brings charcoal to the city operates throughout the autumn months, with thousands of porters and carts moving fuel supplies along roads that become impassable once winter weather arrives. Individual households develop survival strategies that combine practical measures with aesthetic refinement. Homes are equipped with hibachi braziers that provide both heat and cooking capability while minimizing the risk of fire that could devastate entire neighborhoods. The braziers themselves are objects of considerable beauty, with designs that complement interior decoration while serving essential practical functions. Clothing becomes layered and sophisticated, with garments designed to trap body heat while allowing for the precise adjustments needed to maintain comfort as temperatures fluctuate throughout the day. The winter clothing worn by Edo residents represents centuries of textile innovation adapted to the specific challenges of urban living in cold climates without central heating. The kotatsu, a low table equipped with a charcoal brazier underneath and covered with thick quilts, becomes the center of family life during winter months. Families gather around these heated tables for meals, conversation, and entertainment, creating intimate spaces within homes that might otherwise be uncomfortably cold. The kotatsu represents the kind of technological solution that emerges when human ingenuity is applied to environmental challenges without access to external energy sources. But winter also brings its own forms of beauty and entertainment. The snow that transforms Edo into a landscape of white roofs and bare trees becomes the inspiration for poetry, artwork, and seasonal celebrations that find beauty in hardship. The tea ceremony takes on special significance during winter months, when the warmth of the tea and the meditative quality of the ritual provide both physical and psychological comfort. The hot springs that lie within reach of the city become destinations for winter excursions that combine health benefits with social entertainment. These onsen, natural hot springs, used for bathing and relaxation, offer the ultimate luxury of unlimited hot water, heated by geothermal activity rather than precious fuel. Visitors believed that soaking in these mineral-rich waters could relieve fatigue, soothe aching muscles and joints, improve circulation, and even aid in recovery from minor illnesses. The journey to reach the springs, often requiring a full day's travel, becomes part of the experience, creating small adventures that break the routine of urban winter life. Your second year in Edo brings a deeper understanding of the city's unique position in world history. This is not just another pre-modern city, but something genuinely unprecedented, a metropolis of 1 million people that has developed in almost complete isolation from outside influences. The result is a culture that is simultaneously sophisticated and parochial, cosmopolitan and intensely Japanese. The isolation has forced innovations that might not have been necessary in a more connected world. Cut off from foreign technologies and ideas, Edo's craftsmen, merchants, and administrators have pushed Japanese traditions to their absolute limits. The results are visible in every aspect of city life, From the architectural techniques that allow wooden buildings to house 1 million people safely, to the social conventions that allow those people to live together harmoniously. The architectural innovations that make Edo possible represent centuries of adaptation to the specific challenges of housing large populations in earthquake-prone regions using only traditional materials and construction techniques. The buildings are designed to flex with seismic movements rather than resist them, using joinery techniques that allow structures to absorb and dissipate the energy of earth movements that would destroy more rigid construction. The fire prevention and fighting systems that protect the city's wooden neighborhoods demonstrate sophisticated understanding of urban planning and emergency management. Wide fire breaks separate different districts, while neighborhood fire brigades equipped with specialized tools and techniques can respond rapidly to control blazes before they spread to adjacent areas. The coordination required for effective firefighting involves thousands of trained volunteers and complex communication systems that operate without any modern technology. Speaking of fires, one evening you decide to participate in a ritual at a temple that has long been known for protecting the city from disaster. Inside the courtyard, monks move among the crowd, ringing bells and chanting, while townspeople bow, clap, and place offerings of rice, salt, and small talismans before the shrine. The smoke of incense curls into the cold night air, and the combined energy of hundreds of participants gives the ritual a palpable intensity. You join in, feeling both the reverence and the communal hope that each gesture carries. Disaster rituals like the one you are witnessing were common as residents turned to the kami, spirits or gods of Shinto shrines believed to inhabit natural features, objects, or ancestral forces, or to Buddhist deities for protection against fires, floods, and illness. These ceremonies combined prayer, offerings, and symbolic acts that helped people cope with uncertainty and maintain a sense of control. Religion in Edo thus served both spiritual and practical purposes, connecting citizens to one another, to the city, and to a larger understanding of the forces that governed their world. But the isolation has also created vulnerabilities that will become apparent when Japan finally opens to the outside world. The technological gap between Edo and the industrializing West is enormous and growing. The social system that works so well for a closed society will prove inadequate for dealing with foreign pressures and influences. The aesthetic values that have been refined to such extraordinary levels will be challenged by Western ideas about progress, efficiency, and individual freedom. Yet for now, in the middle of the 18th century, Edo represents the pinnacle of pre-industrial urban civilization. The city works not just as a place where people survive, but as a place where they thrive. The 1 million residents have created lives of meaning, beauty, and satisfaction using technologies and social arrangements that seem primitive by modern standards, but represent sophisticated adaptations to the challenges of urban existence. Your own life embodies this achievement. Starting as a rural refugee seeking economic survival, you've become a skilled craftsman, a participant in sophisticated urban culture, and a member of communities that extend throughout the great city. The hair ornaments you create using hand tools and natural lighting are objects of genuine beauty that bring pleasure to their owners and pride to their creator. The customer relationships you develop provide insight into the complex social functions that decorative objects serve throughout Edo society. A courtesan selects ornaments that balance allure with cultural refinement, signaling her status and taste. A merchant's wife chooses pieces for her daughter's coming-of-age ceremony to show family prosperity without attracting unwanted attention, while also indicating marriage prospects. Even a samurai's daughter must navigate strict protocols, using her ornaments to reflect family rank, personal accomplishments, and strategic alliances. The daily routine that once seemed so challenging has become second nature. You wake with the temple bells that mark the dawn hour, work through the day at tasks that require both physical skill and aesthetic judgment, and spend your evenings participating in the rich entertainment culture that makes Edo unique among world cities. The social networks you have developed provide not just economic support, but friendship, entertainment, and a sense of belonging in a vast urban environment. Your fellow tenants in the Nagaya have become an extended family whose daily dramas and celebrations punctuate your own life. The craftsmen in neighbouring workshops provide professional colleagues who understand the challenges and satisfactions of your work. The customers who purchase the ornaments you create connect you to social worlds you might never otherwise encounter. In Edo, there is no sharp divide between work, commerce, and community life. Streets, houses, and workshops blend seamlessly so that labour, trade, and social interaction occur side by side, creating a dynamic urban fabric that feels both practical and alive. But perhaps most remarkable is how the limitations of pre-electric technology have fostered human capabilities that will be lost when modern conveniences arrive. Your hands can judge the quality of wood by touch alone. Your eyes can work effectively by the flickering light of oil lamps. Your memory holds the complex network of streets, shops, and social connections that allow you to navigate the city's human geography. Your social skills have developed to levels that allow you to participate effectively in a culture where every interaction carries significance. You understand the subtle protocols that govern relationships between different social classes, the aesthetic principles that guide judgments about beauty and appropriateness, and the commercial practices that make urban economic life possible. Most importantly, you have learned to find satisfaction and meaning in work that connects you to cultural traditions extending back centuries while contributing to the daily life of the world's largest city. The hair ornaments you create will outlast your own lifetime, carrying forward the artistic traditions of your generation to future craftsmen and customers. The approach of your third year in Edo brings news that will eventually transform not just the city, but all of Japan. Ships from the outside world have been sighted off the coast, carrying technologies and ideas that will challenge everything the isolated society has created. The rumours speak of vessels powered by steam rather than wind, weapons that can destroy stone fortifications, and foreigners who demand that Japan abandon its policy of isolation. But for now, these rumours remain distant threats that don't affect the daily rhythm of city life. Why? Because Edo remained isolated from the outside world, and not by accident, but through the carefully designed policies of the Tokugawa shogunate, the military rulers who governed Japan from the early 1600s to the mid-1800s. The Tokugawa rose to power after a long period of civil wars, when rival warlords fought for dominance and the country was fractured by constant conflict. Determined to prevent a return to that chaos, the shogunate prioritized stability above all else. Trade with foreigners, particularly Europeans, carried not only exotic goods but also new ideas, including religious doctrines that could undermine the shogun's authority. For this reason, contact with other nations was strictly limited, and for most inhabitants of Edo, the outside world remained distant, almost mythical. Japan's geography also supported this isolation. As an island nation, it had natural barriers against invasion and the ability to control its maritime routes. Unlike the states of continental Asia, Japan could afford to cut itself off from international trade and politics, preserving its own cultural traditions and internal order. This fostered a sense of self-sufficiency and even pride in following a uniquely Japanese path of development. As you became more skilled, the city offered increasing opportunities to engage with the more advanced aspects of Edo's craft networks. Master Yamada begins inviting you to visit other workshops where hair ornaments are assembled from components produced by a variety of specialized artisans. These visits reveal the remarkable complexity of the production system and the precise coordination required to bring together pieces crafted in dozens of different locations into a single finished work. Lacquer specialists spend decades mastering techniques that involve controlled workshops, rare materials, and layer upon layer of polished finishes, sometimes enriched with gold or pigments. Metalworkers, drawing on sword-making traditions, forge structural and decorative elements with exact timing, temperature control, and a reverence for their tools and materials. Wood carvers shape the underlying forms with deep knowledge of how different woods age, ensuring that their creations grow more beautiful over time. Your participation in this network of specialized production provides insight into one of Edo's most remarkable achievements: the creation of manufacturing systems that produce objects of extraordinary beauty and quality using only hand tools and human skill. The coordination required to bring together components from different workshops, the quality control that ensures every element meets the highest standards, and the aesthetic vision that guides entire processes represent organizational and artistic achievements that rival anything produced by modern industrial methods. But the systems also reveal vulnerabilities that make isolation increasingly difficult to maintain. The extreme specialization that produces such remarkable results creates dependencies that make the entire network fragile. A disruption in the supply of materials from a single region can affect craftsmen throughout the city. The loss of master craftsmen who possess irreplaceable knowledge can destroy entire trades. The social stability that allows such complex coordination depends on political arrangements that may not survive contact with the outside world. The news from outside becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. The rumours of foreign ships and strange technologies are no longer distant threats, but immediate concerns that affect daily life in the city. The government has begun mobilising defences and issuing new regulations that restrict travel and communication. The atmosphere in entertainment districts becomes tense as people seek distraction from anxieties about an uncertain future. And what will this future bring? When isolation ends, Japan will be swept by new technologies and ideas that will transform the familiar order of life. Steamships will connect the islands and open the country to global trade. Railways will shrink distances and telegraphs will speed the flow of news. Alongside these changes will come Western science, new systems of education, and military practices that reshape both governance and everyday experience. It will bring both tension and inspiration. Old traditions will clash with new forms of culture. Craft workshops will find themselves competing with factories, and society will face the question of whether to preserve the past or embrace change. Out of this struggle will emerge a new understanding of how Japanese identity can be combined with global knowledge, creating a civilization in which ancient roots support growth in a new age. Yet until that moment arrives, the great city continues to function with the resilience born of deep roots and a refined ability to adapt to local conditions. The markets still open at dawn, the craftsmen still create objects of extraordinary beauty, the theatres still provide entertainment that transforms ordinary evenings into memorable experiences. The million people of Edo continue to demonstrate that human communities can achieve remarkable things when necessity forces innovation and isolation requires self-reliance. Edo's success lay in its ability to sustain a vibrant and orderly urban life for over 2 centuries, supporting a population of more than 1 million people with stable food supplies, thriving markets, and rich cultural expression. The shogunate's political system, for all its restrictions and rigidities, created conditions that allowed urban culture to develop to unprecedented heights. The social hierarchy that limited individual freedom also provided the stability necessary for long-term cultural development. The isolation that prevented contact with foreign ideas also allowed Japanese traditions to be explored and refined to their ultimate expression. But the system's very success contains the seeds of its own transformation. The cultural sophistication that urban life has fostered creates desires and expectations that cannot be satisfied within the confines of isolation. The economic development that supports the city's million residents creates pressures for expansion and innovation that conflict with political restrictions. The social changes that urban life inevitably brings challenge traditional hierarchies and create new forms of identity and aspiration. Your own life embodies these contradictions. Starting as a rural refugee seeking economic survival, you have become a sophisticated urban craftsman whose work embodies centuries of cultural development. The skills you have acquired, the relationships you have formed, and the understanding you have gained represent achievements that would have been impossible without the unique conditions that Edo's isolation and urban concentration have created. Yet you are also aware that the world you have helped create is fragile and possibly temporary. The foreign ships that wait beyond the horizon carry technologies and ideas that will inevitably transform Japanese society. The political system that has provided stability for generations may not survive the pressures that contact with the outside world will bring. The cultural traditions that have reached such extraordinary heights in Edo may be swept away by forces that value efficiency and power over beauty and harmony. Standing in Master Yamada's workshop as another day begins in the world's greatest pre-industrial city, you understand that you have been privileged to participate in something unique in human history. The Edo you helped create, and that created you, represents a pinnacle of pre-modern urban civilization, a demonstration of what human beings can achieve when they combine individual skill with collective purpose. The lanterns that light your work will soon be replaced by electric bulbs. The hand tools that shaped your craftsmanship will be superseded by machines. The social arrangements that provided stability and meaning will be challenged by new ideas about individual freedom and social progress. But the principles you have learned, the pursuit of excellence, the appreciation of beauty, the importance of harmony between individual aspiration and collective welfare, will remain relevant as long as human beings live together in cities. Tonight, as you work by lamplight creating objects that will outlast your own lifetime, you are participating in the final flowering of a civilization that achieved something remarkable. The creation of urban life that enhanced rather than diminished human potential, that fostered beauty and meaning while providing material security, and that demonstrated the extraordinary achievements possible when a million people work together with shared values and mutual respect. The story of Edo, and your place within it, demonstrates that the measure of a civilization is not its technology, but its ability to foster human flourishing. By that standard, the city of a million people that functions without electricity, that creates beauty without machines, and that provides meaning without modern entertainment, stands as one of history's greatest achievements. Edo's accomplishments are remarkable in their breadth. Its carefully planned streets and canals supported a dense, vibrant urban life. Kabuki and Sumo offered ritualized and theatrical entertainment. Woodblock printing and ukiyo-e captured the city's essence with extraordinary skill. Sumptuously crafted textiles, lacquerware, and metalwork demonstrated centuries of refined craftsmanship. Festivals, cuisine, and social institutions nurtured shared cultural identity, and the city's markets, temples, and schools maintained a flourishing society that balanced stability with creativity. Thank you for walking with me through the seasons and streets of Old Edo, where human ingenuity created wonders that time has swept away but memory preserves. In exploring this vanished world, we discover not just how our ancestors lived, but what humans can achieve when necessity sparks creativity and isolation forces innovation. Until our next journey into the past, may your life be brightened by the same sense of purpose and community that once lit the greatest city of the pre-modern world.